Okay, so hello and welcome to anybody who's watching this on YouTube or Facebook. This is 40 days recorded on paper session number 178. We're at November 15th, 2024, looking at a summary of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the summary of the first four seals out of the seven seals opened by the Lamb. Now, in an update, a last-minute update to our last session, one of the sources of information I used, gotquestions.org. In the fourth paragraph on the linked page, they conclude the same thing that I did, and I didn't even notice it before, but they concluded that the Hades, also called Hades, Hades, the correct pronunciation of Hades, Hades is a place of waiting for the final judgment. And Hades is split. There is one side called paradise by Jesus, and the other side, which is suffering, separated by a great chasm, but still visible to each other, because the rich man was in the suffering side and he saw Lazarus, and he wanted Abraham to send Lazarus back, right? So God Questions agreed with us, and I also didn't describe Hades's purpose in the fourth seal, prophetic vision. If you remember the fourth seal, the fourth horseman is called out, greenish yellow, pale, his horse, which represents death. The rider of the horse is called Death, and Hades was with him. Since Hades is the place for the dead, Hades, correct pronunciation, since Hades is the place of the dead, it contains both good and bad. The presence of Hades indicates that this rider, the rider called Death, he is just taking lives through different means, and it is not an allegorical death. It's an actual, I'm alive now, I'm gone, I'm dead. This will be a purposeful death, but it will not be restricted to just good people or just bad people, anybody. Because Hades is a place where good go and bad. It'll be purposeful, and there'll be so many people dying that Hades will be scooping them up as death takes them. Literally meaning, like people are going to be just dropping, and Hades will be filling up, just fill them up as death brings them, just scoop them in. My description, it's almost cartoonish. Yeah. We are going to start with a little table comparison here. Check this out. Okay. This here is a little table I did to compare the four horsemen. In order across the top, you will see here first, second, third, fourth horse. I went down, color, what the rider rode out with, what the rider receives, the effect of the horse and the horseman, and the blessed being that calls them out. So here we go. First horseman is white, second is red. Sorry, not horseman. First horse is white, second horse is red, third is black, fourth yellow pale. Okay, and we compare them side by side. So you see white, red, black, yellow, pale. This is almost Trinidad's flag, but then the yellow pale. This could be the flagpole, looking old, but no, this is not Trinidad, by the way. I'm just joking there. Rider equipment. The first horseman was equipped with a bow. No arrows, but there was a bow. He didn't fire anything. The third horseman had scales. The second and fourth horsemen rode out with nothing. The first horseman receives a crown, and we explained what we believe that meant. The second one received a sword. The third one got nothing. There was actually just words coming out from among the four blessed beings. The fourth horseman got not a tool like a crown, not like a sword or adornment like a crown. He got authority to kill 1/4 of the earth, meaning the people on the earth. The effect of the first horseman was a unified world by diplomacy. I'm very careful about this because many people think that the first horseman riding the white horse conquered the world, and that would be war and so on. It would not be war if the red horseman was war, right? And it's one riding out and then another. So it's not like all four ride out at the same time and so on. We'll get to that. Second horseman brings out strife and war. Everybody keeps talking war, but I also include strife. You'll see why in the verses. Third horseman brings out shortage. They call it famine. Most people call it famine. I call it shortage because it's more than just famine. I believe, based on the war before, there will be destruction of fields, but there'll also be destruction of infrastructure, capital equipment. I mentioned the factors of production in my description of this. So, it's not just famine. People just like to talk famine because I don't know why people like to hang on to certain things. Maybe I'm hanging on to the economics stuff, but I genuinely believe that people like to hold on to certain buzzwords. They like buzzwords. The shortages will bring inflation, not hyperinflation, but it will bring great inflation. The fourth horseman's effect will be death of 25% of the world. Joshua has a hand up. What's up, Joshua?
Wait, why would so much emphasis be placed on famine? Is it like one of the major instances of what happened after the Boston strikes?
No, it's just I think a lot of people talk about famine because specifically the voice that was heard said a quart of wheat and a quart of barley and 3 quarts of barley for the price of for a denarius. So lots of people hear, okay, well, it's food they're talking about. So there'll be a famine will cause a shortage of food. And famine is, it's one of these scary things that they always talk about. It's an old thing. We're always afraid of famine and drought and famine and drought. But I mean, nowadays, technology has given us water in dry land. And we have new techniques in farming that outperform just plant some seeds and you harvest some stuff, So I think people just like to talk about famine because that's all the general public knows. Remember, people don't like to advance. They like to talk about how advanced society is, but people themselves don't like to advance. So I think it's just they want to hold on to something that they know, and famine is the closest thing they know of. They don't consider shortage of goods and services. They just think, okay, barley and wheat will be short, so that means famine, because the only way barley and wheat can be short is if we don't have barley and wheat to harvest. Famine. And because it's biblical, oh, that's a biblical trouble, famine. I don't think they realize biblical trouble is more than just famine. The sun gonna get dark soon in these things, and the demon's gonna come out from the abyss. Angels at the Euphrates gonna be unleashed. So all these people who like to hold on to what they think are biblical troubles, they didn't see anything yet. All right. But yeah, let's continue. The fourth horseman, his effect is the death of 25% of the population. You'll get more on that later. Each of these horsemen were called out by a blessed being. I call them blessed beings. They are referred to in the Bible as living creatures. I don't like saying living creatures simply because for me now, this is a me thing. Calling them living creatures makes it sound like they're weird and they're kind of gross. And they're not. They are beautiful, wonderful people. I don't know if to call them people because they're not human, but they are beautiful beings. And they are beautiful because these are the beings that sit around the throne of God, continuously, non-stop saying, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Because of that verse, I have gotten to sleep a lot easier. This is my personal thing. Now I'm dropping it in, but when I need to sleep, I lie down, I try to pray, and if I can't focus to pray, I keep straying. I lie down, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. And many times I just knock out, but that's by the way. So for comparison, they're all side by side here. The blessed beings that call them out. The first one is a living being like a lion. The second being is described as being like an ox. The third, with a face of a man. And the fourth, like an eagle in flight. Now, these descriptions are what John gave us. These blessed beings are described also in Ezekiel, I think. Ezekiel chapter 1, excuse. We will do a little study on them for next week. If I could do it for tomorrow, I'll try. But I will not go beyond saying that they were described as like a lion, like an ox, with the face of a man, like an eagle in flight. What I take from this, the first one literally looks like a lion, face, muzzle, eyes, teeth, mane, like a lion. The second one, like an ox, could literally mean it looked like, a beast of burden, hefty, strong, slow-moving though. The next one had the face of a man. So we don't know what the body was, but it had the face of a man. And the last one was like an eagle in flight. I took that to mean, the wings were outstretched. And that's just how he was. Of course, these are all in a vision. So none of it's literal. This here is to describe them to John. This is in the vision so that John could describe it to us. This is what John sees, but what John sees is not literally what they look like, which is why I have to remember to inform you all. There are a lot of people who put out this stuff about biblically accurate angels, drawings of biblically accurate angels. Kids like to talk about this. I say kids because it's on social media a lot. And every smart aleck who thinks he knows something because he read something thinks, I know how to draw biblically accurate angels, or those paintings that Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello did. I don't know if those are real artists. I just know the Ninja Turtles. But those paintings that people did in the Renaissance period, those paintings are not what angels look like. People with wings. Real angels look like, and they have these images that kids draw now, or AI could draw for us, and we call those biblically accurate angels. Those descriptions that are biblically accurate were visions. They were not literal. The visions indicate characteristics or qualities, not physical characteristics or qualities, but personal characteristics. Okay? So a lot of people, if you all see these and you all are on social media, you all see things about biblically accurate angels, and you see the covered in eyes and the wheels and, whatever fearsome things. Angels are fearsome looking. To us, they would be. But they can take different forms because we know angels came as men. They were men when they walked and talked with Abraham, right? They were men who went to Lot. We recently read Lot in Genesis. So these descriptions here would not be descriptions of what they look like so much as descriptions of their characteristics. Okay? So I want everybody to understand that off the bat before we go any further. Don't get carried away. Now, in terms of looking at this, there are you'll hear some numbers. I am not endorsing I'm not endorsing or promoting numerology. Let's get this clear. Numerology refers to the study of numbers in the belief that numbers have a special importance in people's lives. Numerology gives individuals a life path number that is reached by a calculation involving your birth. This is unbiblical, and there are organizations, websites, authors devoted to this deception. If you ever find yourself in a situation where people are asking, what is your date of birth? Let me tell you about yourself. Stop. Don't give them your date of birth, because that's like showing faith. Don't play with it. Don't feel like, well, for kicks, let me try it. Let me hear what stupidness you have to say. I know I don't believe it, but let me hear. No, 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 don't play with it. Flee. You have no place or no part in numerology or anybody trying to do numerology. If somebody says, well, I know your date of birth, so I went and I got it checked, so here's your life path. You'll say, hold on. Now, I was going to do something bad and say, here's my sign for that. But no, it's like, this is nonsense. I don't want to hear it. And they say, no, it's not, it's nothing bad. Let me just tell you what, and you're like, stop. You went to check numerology for my life without my permission, so you can keep the information. You do not have my permission to share it. I do not want to know it. I am not in the least bit curious. And if you are curious, say, well, I might be curious, but I still don't want to know. Because the minute you listen to hear what it says, you are giving and showing faith in that, which means you are showing disbelief and disobedience to God. Numerology has no place in our lives. Okay? Now, looking at this here, there were 4 beings, like lion, ox, face of a man, eagle in flight being, right? One of these beings gives the 7 angels the golden bowls of wrath. If you'll remember, in Revelation 16, the bowls of wrath are there. One of the beings gives the angels the 7 bowls of wrath, I think in Revelation 15. So there are 4 beings. There are 4 horsemen. Each of the horsemen has a different effect, so there are 4 effects. If I look at that, what's their connection? I am not asking if there's a connection, because God doesn't do anything by coincidence. There are also 4 sevens in Revelation. Let me explain that. There are 4 sevens. Listen, there are the 7 churches at the start of Revelation, the 7 seals in Revelation, which we're studying, the 7 trumpets at the end of the 7 seals, and the 7 bowls of wrath after the 7 trumpets. At a surface look, we'll see that groups of 4, the 7 churches, seals, trumpets, bowls of wrath, the groups of 4 are all associated with God's judgment and eventual wrath. What's the difference then? Because the 7s are also associated with God's judgment and wrath. The 7 churches was an evaluation, review, and warning. The 7 seals, judgment. 7 trumpets, judgment. 7 bowls of wrath, God's wrath. What's the difference between the 7s and the 4s? I'm going to leave that unanswered for now, because there's a lot more of these events and possibly more scriptural references that we haven't met yet to consider. If we get to that, we may come back and provide a reference in this doc. I'll just say C lesson whatever number for the meaning of the 4s and the 7s. But for now, just know that there are 4 sevens in Revelation and what the 7s are. And as we study and we're breaking this down, I would like you all to pay attention and learn. Do you know the 7 bowls of wrath now? Do you know what are the colors of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? The 4 horse, not the horsemen, the 4 horses. Do you know what each horse brings? And I am okay if you say no. I'm just not okay with you leaving it like that. I want you to learn these things. Learning that not going to get me to heaven, that's true, but learning it will show a desire to know the things of God. Learning it shows a love for the things of God. Learning it shows better equipping of the saint that you're supposed to be, who knows the things of God, so that you can be able to preach the gospel to all creation. Please make it your business to study. And you'll say, oh goodness, I finished school, I don't need to study. If you think like that, you're a lot dumber than I think you might be. You need to study. You right now, if you're 25 or 28 or 31, you right now better be a lot dumber than you next year at this time. And the only way to make sure of that, not to go and do dumb stuff, is to make sure you learn and you study and you grow in wisdom between now and next year. And you can't wait till next year, November the 1st, to say, you know what, let me start studying now to be better by the 15th. So I'll say I'm a better a year later. No, you don't study. You don't eat one day to make up for the next 6 days. You eat a little every day. Just like that, our brain works. You study a little every day. And you review a little every day to lock it in. You can't study something, say, I know it now, and that's it. You have to review it. And it's hard. That's where dedication shows. So get it in your heads. Start studying, please. Now, these 4 seals that we're talking about here, these 4 horsemen, the first 4 seals, they are hyped up by media. They're hyped up by writers, by pastors, and that's because they're all easy to market. References to the apocalypse. The word apocalypse, by the way, does not mean end. People always say, oh, the apocalypse is upon us. That's the end of the world. The word apocalypse means revelation. What's revelation? Revelation means a revealing. Here is my plan. That's what apocalypse means. The references to the apocalypse or to the end of the world or the horsemen and other frightful imagery, they are very easy to market to people. Books, movies, speaking tours, etc. are opportunities for men to make money. So the whole word of God is not peddled. They don't sell the whole word of God. The interesting and scary stuff is what is peddled, is what is marketed, because it's plastered everywhere. We don't see men selling the millennial kingdom. We don't see people selling the Old Testament prophecies in their books or their tours, because those things are harder to market to an audience that likes shock value and vivid imagery, because those things are easy to grasp. You can imagine somebody saying, hey, take care of the poor, because in Amos, God calls rich women who like to get drunk, he calls them the cows of Bashan. You can see a guy like Joel Osteen writing a book, or John Hagee or T.D. Jakes, cows of Bashan. They could, by the way, they could. But on the picture of it, they'll show some one of those rich trophy wife types with the big dark glasses in a bikini on a boat. That's a cow of Bashan. That is exactly what Amos was referring to. They might sell that, because you could put a bikini girl on the cover of your book and put cows of Bashan. So, the overweight ones will hate on her, and the skinny ones will be upset. Why are they calling the skinny girl a cow? And it's a religious book, so the religious people read it. Ugh, y'all. One thing, 40 days could make a ton of money if we were evil. Let me just say that up front. We're not going to. We must be different. You We must be different by hungering and thirsting after righteousness in our daily behavior and in our effort to search out scripture for more knowledge of God and his way. We can't go seeking after hype. We can't go seeking after what pleases roving minds. It's easy to learn the two commandments, love God with all your heart, soul, and strength, love your neighbor as yourself. It's easy to learn them, but searching the word makes them come alive to us as we understand the one who made them for us and as we see his plan and his purpose. We get wisdom, we get insight that'll help us increase our commitment to him. So don't stop at a level. You study, you reach a level. Don't stop there and say, well, this is good enough. Because we could never have just enough of God. We could never have just enough of his goodness. A true child of God wants all, because a true child of God recognizes that if I pause for a second, I will slip back and perish. Here's a little overview of the start of the process of the end. That's what I call it. You see, the 7 seals would be the start of the end process of the world. The opening of the seals by the Lamb must represent Jesus unleashing or Jesus allowing things that are due to mankind as a result of our disobedience. Note I said due to mankind. It is coming. We have earned this. You see, in the plan of God, Jesus proved his worthiness and the judgment will fall upon men. Jesus proved his worthiness. That's the Lamb who was found worthy. I'll go here. Let's go to the Bible now. In Revelation 5, who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals? I've covered this many times and I can't cover it enough because our God is worthy. And John began to cry. But one of the elders, there are 24 elders sitting around the throne that we've never studied either, one of the elders said, weep no more, because the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has conquered so that he can open the scroll and its seals. And that Lamb comes with the 7 eyes and 7 horns. In the plan of God, Jesus proved his worthiness. God is just. That is why Jesus had to give up his life for us. That is why there are consequences for disobedience. Justice means you do wrong, a price has to be paid. At the time in history when Jesus will open the seals, what he'll be doing is he'll just let a planned series of events, he'll let them take place. This planned series of events show the rewards that we as a human race have earned. You want to talk racism? There's one race, the human race of people. There is no white, black, brown, green. So I am a member of the green race. I hate the black race, the brown race, the white race. I hate all of them except my green brothers. It is so racist when people refer to other members of their race as their brothers. Oh yeah, he's a brother, so I like him, or he or she's a brother, they'll understand. No. The human race has earned everything from the first seal straight down to the 7th trumpet as a consequence of our actions. Considering that the bowls of wrath, the bowls are filled with God's wrath, we need to remember here that the seals and the trumpets are not God's actual anger. There's a difference between the seals and the trumpets as a group, two groups, and the bowls of wrath. They are not God's anger. They are natural consequences of disobedience. The seals and the trumpets are the rewards that we've earned by being disobedient. Very often, people do not get the reward of their bad choices immediately. So you're a young man and you choose a woman who is not a woman of God to marry. The consequences don't hit you until later on. You're a person walking on the street, you choose to, let's say you see somebody have like some granny reach into her purse and pull out something and $20 fall on the side, and you stay quiet and you just go and pick it up and put it in your pocket. The reward for that, you'll be feeling it later on. You cheat in an exam, the reward for that, you'll be feeling it later on. Society will suffer as a result of its bad choices. The seals and the judgments are not direct acts of God. They are the result of God's restraining hand being withdrawn in stages. So we will see that when each thing happens, God is just letting it. Let's say he's blocking this from happening all along. He's going to pull his hand back and pull his hand back and let something more, let more pass through, and let more pass through. We lose, and this is it, we will lose good sense, so people fall for stupidity. That's the first horse. We lose peace of mind, so we will fight. That's the red horse. We lose tangible blessings, so work does not yield. That's the third horse. Shortage. We lose protection, so we will die. The pale horse or the greenish yellow horse, we will die. This last little piece was a summary of restraining hand of God against the consequences that we deserve. His restraining hand will be removed, and those things will be unleashed on mankind. Summary of the four horsemen begins this way. The rider of the first horse, number one, is not the Antichrist. It symbolizes the Antichrist movement and his rise to power across the world. The similarity to the description of Jesus in Revelation 19, as we see it here, and I looked, and behold a white horse, and behold a white horse. This is a description given of Jesus in Revelation 19. You all know that. That similarity indicates that this rider imitates Jesus. The speed and method of the spread of the rider's conquest ties in with what we know about the Antichrist. The Antichrist is boastful. And here, because this rider had a bow, no arrows are mentioned, no use of the bow is mentioned. No death as a result of his firing arrows is mentioned. That is why we've concluded that diplomacy is what he's going to use. The diplomatic conquest of the world goes hand in hand with the Antichrist boastfulness. Diplomacy can lead to a quick conquest of people at the same time. Imagine one heads of state meeting and they all vote to accept him. It's an easy way for many nations to join the Antichrist. It's possible. He can get together with all these heads of state and say, hey guys, if you all trust me, I can help bring you all out of depression and war and whatever else that's bad. Here's my plan. And he'll be so good at it. He'll be so boastful and like, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. Look at what I've done. Look at what I've done here. His side chick, his false prophet will be there too. And the false prophet will be doing miracles too, like the performing junkie he is. And all these leaders will agree. One little vote at a meeting, and several nations could join him. People today love the arrogant, and they follow the boastful. So the citizens will not just accept this when their leaders join in. Citizens will love it. This first horseman is accepted conquest of the world. That's all he is. He is an accepted conquest of the world by a threatening force. I say threatening because they will seem powerful, the Antichrist crew, the beast system. They will seem powerful because the bow that he has represents military might. He will have military might, but he will not use that force to conquer. He will use his words to conquer. That's why we see he had a bow and a crown was given to him. He came out conquering and he came out to conquer. The three horses will ride out in quick succession. I heard one of the creatures say, "Come." When he opened the second seal, I heard a second living creature say. Now, Jesus, the Lamb, is not opening all seven seals, bam, like one. He's opening one seal at a time. And if you notice how it's written in this translation, first paragraph, first horse, second paragraph, second horse, there is a sequence that the translators used here. We've done quite a bit of referencing to the original script as well. So there will be opportunity, if we're alive at that time, to observe the stages as they happen. I hope we're not here for this. There'll be diplomatic conquest of willing peoples, followed by strife and war. The strife and war is most likely because the willing ones will try to oppress others in their own countries and others in other countries. So imagine this. Let's say the Antichrist system starts up and most of the Caribbean join, but Tobago doesn't join. All the countries that are part of it will oppress Tobago until Tobago joins, to try to force Tobago to join. And that may mean use of force. In a neighborhood, like let's say where you live, all your neighbors are supporting the joining, and there might be a day where red or green or blue or whatever the Antichrist color is, to show your support for our joining the movement, and you wear a totally opposite color. You could face getting your car vandalized, your house vandalized, you getting beat up, your children getting abused because you're not part of the movement. This red horse is going to run blood. And this is not the worst blood, by the way. People will be very hostile towards each other. On a macro scale, as countries hate countries now because they didn't join up. And on a micro scale too. So neighbor disputes, family disagreements will lead to savage violence. Now I know today we have that. Remember a couple of weeks ago, I went to the cremation where a lady was cremated because her husband killed her. It's going to be worse. You see how this is almost normalized now, that every so often you're hearing about a man killing a woman, or man killing woman, killing self, killing the children. It's going to get worse. And it's not going to be in Trinidad alone. We hear about this because we are in Trinidad. It's a small country. You know, Trinidad is so small. It's easy to say, I know him or her through their neighbor, their friend, their bus driver, their taxi driver, something, right? There was a time when a man killed a woman. He waited for something like that and he killed her. And that was on my street when I lived in Pinal. I had no clue it happened, but that was on my street. My street was a very long street, but it happened relatively close to where I lived. And that's by chance that I happened to be there. So I was technically close to this thing, but we all know nothing happens by chance. In Trinidad, we know or can connect dots to people that bad things happen because our country is so small. This is going to happen all over the world. The war of the Red Horse will cause a loss of infrastructure and destruction of natural resources, like I mentioned before, and this will lead to the third horse. Output levels will plummet. Market prices of necessity goods will skyrocket because the supply of goods will decrease. I can draw you all demand and supply graphs and show when the supply, I'm not sure how you all see in this, but whichever one of these is supply, it will go to the left. When it decreases, the price goes up. The equilibrium price in the market will go up. In this, luxury items will be preserved because people will cherish the items that they worship. After all of this, violence, hunger, disease, mysterious failings of the body and animals will happen because people will die. And as I said, the word was thanatos. It means death. So it means people's bodies will just die. Sword, famine, pestilence, and wild animals with the four ways described. All right, we'll see it here. Death and Hades will kill with the sword, famine, pestilence, wild beasts of the earth. The four horsemen will cause a lot of death. And here is something for us all to understand. I did some maths. The initial Google review that I did tells me that 40 million people died in World War I. 40 million. In World War II, which was worse, 50 to 85 million people died. Now, these figures, let me be clear, are very difficult to actually calculate because there was so much sickness. And it would have been difficult to record how many people died because sometimes people were dying so rapidly. Nobody was counting bodies as they tried to bury them. Combine the two figures, 85 and 40 is 125 million. Combined, that represents 1.53% of the population of the world at the time I typed this today. The population of the world at that time today was over 8 billion, 188 million people. I didn't take the hundreds of thousands and so on. And the population was rising faster than 2 people per second. I was typing that in the bank today. So I looked at the worldometer and over 8 billion people, right? Chat is coming through. Is anybody hearing me very soft? Thanks for letting me know, Miss Kimberly. Are you all hearing me clearly or is my volume very low?
Very clearly.
Okay. So Miss Kimberly, if you're not hearing me clearly, it might be because internet on your end, or it could be, is there anybody with I'm just gonna mute anybody who's right. I don't know if there was any interruption in the service. Oh, Miss Kimberly is not hearing me at all. Let me just reply to her. I'll offer her to rejoin if she can. Yeah. So yeah, that happens, I guess, with the Zoom. How are we going so far? Any questions? as we give her a chance to come back in. Any questions so far on what we're doing? We're almost done. I'm almost done. Right? So get it clear. 125 million people approximately died in World Wars I and II combined. If I took that figure of deaths and I put it in today's population, that is only 1.53% of today. Hold on. She comes. Giving her a chance to come in. I'm like very close to ending, so I hope you all have questions. Is Kimberly hearing me now? Better?
Yes, I hear it better. Thanks.
Excellent. Welcome. So, for perspective, 1.53% of today's population died in World Wars I and II. What that tells us, those deaths, 125 million people is plenty people. That's the population of Trinidad. All of Trinidad is dead based on World Wars I and II. And the whole world felt that then. The fourth horseman is given authority with Hades to kill and take down 1/4. Sorry, over. This says over a fourth of the earth. I did not notice that over before. What verse is that? Revelation 6:8. You all just ride with me here. Revelation 6:8, interlinear. Do they have the over 1/4 in this original? Oh, yes. Epi. Oh. Remember that? Epi and Ipano? We did a little study on that too, because some difference between the fourth horseman and the other three. He has control over it. Authority over a quarter or the fourth of the earth. I didn't look into this word tetarton, which should mean a quarter. Fourth, yeah. I'm just checking to make sure there's nothing different about it. Okay, yeah. So that fourth means a quarter. They are given authority to kill over a fourth of the earth. I kept thinking it was a quarter, but it's over. So 1/4 is not even the minimum. More than a quarter of the people. So when I did my calculation, the death toll of 25% would be more than 2 billion people today. That's astronomical, guys. This here is my summary of the four horsemen so far. The only thing that changes is if I read MacArthur's stuff tomorrow and I find something different, I will inform you all about it tomorrow. I'll add it in, and that would be that for the four horsemen. I do have to check into 2 more things, just to let you know where we're going after this. We're not going straight to the 5th seal. I will consider the timing of this in terms of the tribulation. All right, one little piece I did. It isn't immediately clear if this is the start of the tribulation or not. Some people say it is, that the first horseman, the white horse, will be tribulation. I don't know yet. I can't say definitively. I do know that 2 Thessalonians tells us that the apostasy is associated with the Antichrist revelation to the world. So if the diplomatic conquest includes apostasy, then the tribulation may be starting here. But further proof has to come from the word if we will say yes or no for sure in advance. I guarantee you this, when we see that apostasy, if you are here and there's apostasy out there, and remember, apostasy means a falling away or refuting of your religious beliefs. I don't believe in the church and God anymore. I used to be in church. I used to sing. I used to dance. I used to play music. I used to preach. I used to, deliver communion or whatever. But now I just turn my back on that because they're so fake. They're so bad. I believe in this new guy who is so great. He's leading the world to peace. Look at him. Look at him. He's just leading everybody to peace. He's so great. That's what you're going to hear people say. You will hear big men start sounding like important in their own eyes because they'll be like, yeah, well, organized religion is not realistic. It's fables, it's stories. But this man is a real man. He is getting things done. And that's what we need in the world today. And I trust him. That's what people will say who used to be big time church people. Tons of them are going to leave their churches. If you want to make money, invest in a loan that is borrowed by a church because they're not going to be, when the day they're not going to be able to pay it when this apostasy happens, you will get to claim lots of property. You will own it. That's serious, by the way. Churches that take loans, if you can buy the bank that does it, or if you can buy the loan from the bank, which you can do, by the way, there's a way to buy loans. You will own a church building for pennies on the dollar. Or if you know a church that's not indebted, you could just hang around like a vulture to buy their building because they will become poor. Because their membership is going to leave. Granted, yes, this is only going to be fake people. No true child of God is ever going to leave the church of God. No true child will ever leave. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying true children are going to leave. But the apostasy is going to happen. And if it happens with the diplomatic conquest, then the tribulation may be starting there, right? So we're going to look next at the 4 living beings. There is Ezekiel 1, a passage there that mentions or supposed to talk about them. So I have to investigate it properly to know. So that's where we're going next. The 4 living beings who called out these 4 horsemen, since we covered the 4 horsemen, I summarized it today. There's a lot more detail in our previous documents. I don't know if I uploaded those documents yet now that I'm thinking about it. So I'll check that. Where is it? All right, yeah. So does anybody have any questions about what we've spoken about, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? Any questions you all have about them now? This is the time. Ask, and I will try to give you an answer as best as I can. Anything? While I check. I didn't upload them yet, so I have to number them properly and upload them. We're good? Okay, my advice to you, show some desire to know God and know his things and his way. Read Psalms. Read Psalms to get encouragement. Read Psalms to express yourself praise, to express your praise, to express your sadness, to express your disgust at yourself. It's all there in Psalms. If you want to learn and study the Word of God, you have to do it properly. Right now, simple facts, we could learn simple facts. 66 books, Old and New Testament. 2/3 of the Bible is in the Old Testament. A smaller part is the New Testament. All right. You can look at any summary or overview of the Bible and get little facts there. But as we are studying something very, very specific, we did the 7 bowls of wrath. So you can go back to those docs and check them. They are online. All right. If any of you don't have the link and you want it, send me a message and I'll send you the link to it. All right. The 7 bowls, you should know what each bowl is, what the effect of each bowl is. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, you should remember the color of each of the horses, not the horsemen. The horsemen's color is not given. The horse's color is given. White horse, then red, then black. So it starts Trinidad, white, red, black. You know the white horse is first because it looks like Jesus, but it's not Jesus. Right? So white, red, black, pale. It's easy to remember the last one. Pale horse is last. And the pale horse is really a sickly looking greenish yellow. and the color of it was I can't remember the word for the color in the original, but the rider's name was capital TH Thanatos. His name was Death, and Hades was with him. Hades is what we call Hades. We mispronounce the word. Know what each horse brings. The first horse, pure victory, conquest, without war. Very clearly, without war. Many Bible scholars out there would say, no, well, you have to have war to conquer. Not this guy. He will conquer with words, diplomacy. Second horse, strife and war, bloodshed. And this bloodshed is not just country versus country. It will be man versus man, woman versus man, child versus man. Everybody will be at war with each other. Those who are led by the devil, those who are led by God, we might be drawn into it and pulled into it, but we have to fight and say, no, I am not part of it. I am not going to just kill people. I'm not just going to fight with people. Third horse, shortage and inflation. There'll be a shortage of infrastructure and a shortage of resources, natural resources, and goods. Prices will rise. Luxuries will be valued and kept safe. Instead of using the luxuries, it'll be kept inaccessible to people in need. Fourth horse, death of over a quarter of the people. And we're looking currently at over 2 billion people dying. How will they die? Sword, violence, hunger. They will just die. Pestilence, they'll just die. Sickness and other causes will just die. And wild beasts will attack and kill people. That's not a nice future, but that is the future. As we were talking about the president-elect this week, I was saying to someone, he may have good plans, or he might have good plans and just turn and become evil. Or his plans would be used and misused, and everything will suck. Or he might fight and do what's right against a world that's going wrong. And remember what I pointed out this week. Almost half of the country voted against him. Almost. So there's a whole lot of evil in America still, and they might be provoked to anger. And with their depraved minds abandoned by God, they will get worse. And instead of making America great again, as what the president-elect wants to do, the overwhelming stupidity of the wicked and disgusting ones, they will sink America. And there's nothing the president could do about it. Because the world is going down. We are seeing Trinidad going down, and we are seeing all over the world, different countries are going down. The seals are close. I don't believe the seals have happened yet. The opening of the seals, I don't think they've happened yet, because nobody has conquered everything with words. And when we consider the prophecy in Daniel about the ram and the male goat, the ram has to be shut down by the beast system. And the beast system is Europe. So that hasn't happened yet. And the beast system that shuts down the ram, they'll be the ones to do the white horse conquest with diplomacy. So I'm going to stop the recording here and say thanks to everybody who's watching this on YouTube and Facebook. God bless you, and we'll try to keep you up to date with the book of Revelation as 40 Days is studying. Thank you.